Hello.
Finally.
Finally, I've done it. Success.
Well,
Hello,
they
how
say
are you?
I'm good and yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. It's midday for you, right?
It is, but I am out in the country a little bit, so our service may be a little spotty at times, just to prepare you for
Okay.
that.
I'm going to come down a little bit lower because I feel I feel like I'm
Well,
too big
I'm
for the
sitting on the
box. Oh, I'll go back. There we go.
I'm kind of sitting on the floor, just kind of relaxing down here. So
Well, I thought what we could do is kind of keep it just nice and short and concise because I think quite often, I mean, I'm the worst for this. I won't if something says it's 60 minutes long. I never I never listen. I just think with digital people just don't have the patience. So, should we
right. No,
just get stuck in? Do you
yeah,
want to
let's do
tell
it.
us a little bit about yourself, Robin? Just introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Robin Salls. I am the founder and publisher of Tangled Silver Magazine, a silver sister for it'll be 3 years in December. 54 years old. And silver is kind of what I do these days.
Okay. And I should maybe there'll be people that don't know who I am as well. So I'm
Yeah.
also a Silver Sister since I stopped dyeing my hair after 20 years, almost 19 years and a couple of months, um, in 2016. So a little bit, just a little bit longer than you. I think what is that? 5 years. So 5 years for me. And
Yep.
I went public with my page in last year in May. I didn't do this whole lovely documentation of the journey and all of that. I just really struggled and had like hid it and was really embarrassed by my demarcation and all of that. So it was a horrible experience for me. So I just get such joy from watching everybody's stories and everybody's journeys that I'm in touch with on here. It's just wonderful to watch.
And I find it
Anyway,
hard to believe you had a hard time just because yours are so beautiful. It's hard to imagine that you had a rough time
yeah,
going
I
there.
think I think also, the sort of just completely brainwashed about how society would view me, how
Yep.
I was single at the time, how do you date when you've got gray hair suddenly,
Right.
and work as well. I work in a quite a glamorous environment. I used to work like in the music business, and I just worried about that too. So yeah, I just worried, and I needn't have because it's just the best thing I could have done, and I wish I'd done it years
It's
ago.
beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So is yours. So is yours.
Thank you.
So shall we what prompted you to do the magazine? What was
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I am a magazine addict. Started in
okay.
in like the early 1980s with Teen Magazine.
Yeah.
That was my first subscription of my own, and so I've just always been drawn to very visual representation of anything that I enjoy. And so I started following other Silver Sisters when I knew I wanted to go that way. And then, of course, started looking for magazines and couldn't find one that actually spoke to me on a level. I mean, there were some articles here and there, but nothing that really inspired me or shared some of the inspiration that I was seeing on Instagram. And I thought, well, we need a magazine. So I put it out there last, I think it was November, that I said I'm going to do it and launch it January 1st. And my husband looked at me and went, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Well, I'm going to do a magazine." And he's like, "And you announced that?" I'm like, "I did. So I guess it's going to happen."
Wow. I mean, lots of people have, we have ideas. I'm sure loads of people thought of the same idea, but just weren't driven enough to actually do it. So, I mean, it's a big thing. I'm sure you've got a daytime job and,
No,
I
actually,
mean, you,
this is my full-time gig. I actually, for the last 8 years, have been doing some wine businesses
okay.
involving sharing wine, women, female winemakers, and so started a magazine that way originally. So it wasn't a new concept for me to put the magazine together because I've been doing magazine for about the last 5 years. But
Ah,
I switched. COVID hit. I wasn't doing my wine magazines, and so I had the time to convert that creativity into the silver community. So
amazing. Amazing. And you're into the third edition, aren't you? The third issue now,
So
or
we
you're
actually
working on the
the
fourth.
yeah, the fourth issue will be out in 2 weeks, October 1st.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any help at all, or is it all? I mean,
So
obviously you have contributors, but
I have a team of contributors, obviously, that are helping provide
mm,
articles. They're all Silver Sisters. And then I have a few editors that help out. I have a design layout person that kind of helps me. I pretty much do the majority of everything, and they kind of come in and just kind of tweak a few things for me here and there, make sure that I don't have double spaces and all that sort of fun stuff. But yeah, it's pretty much me, myself, and
Wow.
I, the old saying goes.
So you do the marketing, the promotion, the creative
Right
side
now,
of it, production,
yes,
and
right now I'm doing it all. I send it out to my printer to actually print it for me, but pretty much I'm doing all the marketing and such. We're growing pretty quickly, so I am looking into outsourcing some of those things or bringing some people on to help out a little bit more as we are growing, which is really exciting to see that there was a want and a desire for it, like I thought there was going to be potentially, but you never know until you actually throw it out there, and then you're like, this is my
yeah,
baby,
of
do you like
course,
it?
yeah.
And yeah, so we're growing, so it's exciting.
Amazing. So funding, how, I mean, are you getting advertising now?
So
Okay,
I
self-funded.
I guess I'm kind of that silly person that believes kind of in, like the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. So I've spent this past year really building the magazine for what I kind of want the overall feel to be. And we've now just started reaching out to advertisers. So we have a couple advertisers in the magazine. For the most part, it's been based on, subscriptions that are coming in, and the small advertisers, and then my funding it because I believe in it. So.
Okay, amazing. Well, we definitely need it. I think when there's, a lack of representation elsewhere,
Mhm.
to have something that specializes in that is fantastic. I mean, I suppose it's like, Ebony and Jet magazine for Black people. There's a lack of
Right,
representation elsewhere, so you just create your own.
right.
It's much needed. And why the name Tangled Silver?
So, I started, when I started my journey to make myself go through with it, I did do my Instagram account to document it and said on there, I'm going to do it for 2 years and see what happens. And that was kind of my way to do it. And I called myself Tangled Silver because my hair is kind of a tangled mess, and it was silver, and life can sometimes be messy and sometimes it's great. So it just kind of fit the tangled silver piece of it. And so when I was going to do the magazine, it just made sense to kind of continue to tie in the tangled silver. So
Okay, so it's kind of
pretty simple and
twofold.
basic, but just kind of tangled all in there. And again, our silvers can sometimes be a tangled mess and tangled beautifully, and just part of who
Nice.
I am.
And how do you select your cover? I want to say cover girl, but that seems really
So
old fashioned. So your cover
right,
person.
that cover person.
Because
I get
I
asked
the
that a
first
lot,
one
and
was, sorry, go on.
yes, no, I totally hear you. The first one was I was really excited. My first cover was Heron, which she goes by Silver Curls on Instagram. I'm
Love
going to
her.
tell you, so I meant to bring a copy of my original first one to show you live. And yet I had a woman about 2 weeks ago reach out to me that said she really wanted that issue, and I was sold out, and she was so bummed. And so I sent her my only last copy. And I've
Oh,
ordered more, but they're not in yet. But so this is Heron's cover. I don't know if you can see that. She just
yes. I
so it's that smile. Do you see that smile?
I love her.
Totally
Yeah, yeah.
she totally
She's
spoke to my soul. And so um when I'm out there looking for things and looking for who's going to be the next cover, I'm looking for somebody who just speaks to me in some manner. Rather it's their smile, it's their silver hair, it's their overall feel of their feed or their pages. Sometimes it's somebody who's reached out to me and we've just become kind of friendly through communications. And it just does. I'm looking for people that I feel like are you're touchable in a sense, right? Like people can look at you and feel like, oh, I could totally be friends with her. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's kind of how our cover and our back cover kind of been, just women that really speak to me in some manner.
yeah.
Um,
Okay. Well,
that's
if I
that's
guess
really
if it resonates with you, you're obviously you
right.
would be a reader. You're going to be representative of your target market. So it's
Well,
likely
like
to
for
speak
instance,
to us as well.
well, like for you, I saw your pictures and I was like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And then I
Oh,
read more about your history and went onto your website. I was like, okay, yeah, we have to feature this silver woman because we need to know that there's so much more beyond just the color of our hair.
oh,
So
absolutely, absolutely, and that's why I wanted to speak to you as well because you're a bit of you're not as active as some people are on Instagram. I feel
right,
like, yeah, that you get a sense of who you are, but really not the story's not told, but like the behind the scenes story of the magazine and the thinking behind it.
right.
Obviously, the magazine speaks for itself, but I always think it's really nice. I don't know if you follow their aging standards. Do you follow her?
I don't think so.
She
That doesn't sound
double so
familiar.
it's EFF aging standards. Their aging
Okay.
standards. She's amazing.
Okay.
She's an artist. She's kind of like the Banksy of the Silver Sisters. I'm going to
Oh,
share her. I'll send it to you because she's an enigma. So we don't know anything about her. So I would absolutely love to get hold of her and speak to her because she's very vocal and representative of us.
oh wow.
She's got lots of merchandise. She's a creative and I'm sure she's a fascinating person, just like yourself, like behind the scenes, kind of person that's doing a lot of work to give us a platform and to speak for us and represent us. And it's fantastic that people like you are there. Can you tell us a bit? You've touched on it a little bit, but what can a subscriber expect from the content of the magazine?
Yeah, so when we get into the magazine, the core of the magazine is our Celebrate section, which is where we are actually sharing other Silver Sisters and their stories. Rather, it's, some of us come to color because it's just a choice. Some of us come to color because our health has taken a turn and we have no option but to stop coloring. Some of it is major health issues that pop up, cancer, autoimmune deficiencies that end up making us have to go silver maybe before we wanted to. So the stories are really inspiring. And for me, reading about some of these women and getting to know them beyond the color of their hair really drew me to them. So I thought it was important for everybody to kind of feel like you can resonate with somebody in the magazine that just kind of hits with you and you go, oh, she gets me. I totally get this person. And then on top of that, we wanted to also be a resource for questions. When you go silver, people say you get washed out. So there's color questions. You have to change all your cosmetics. You have to change all your wardrobe. There's how do you take care of silver hair? Because people sometimes tell me that, oh, I thought when you go silver, you don't have to do anything anymore. You go gray, you don't have to take care of your hair. And I'm like, actually, I spend more time on my hair now than I ever spent beforehand. The difference is
Oh, wow.
it's in taking care of it and realizing that there's just a few tweaks I need to do to make it work better for me in a sense. But I think that like the concept that if you're going gray, you're letting yourself go, you're letting your hair go, you just don't care anymore is so outdated. Because I think we spend more time being aware of it. So you get things like tips on makeup, tips on just being in general. In the fall issue, Katie Goes Platinum is doing an article for us about learning to love your gray because there are a lot of women that are forced gray because of health issues. Or a lot of us that were forced that way during COVID when all the salons were shut down.
That's
and
what
weren't really happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they weren't happy about going gray. And so she's done a great article about, how to learn to love gray and kind of like the steps to kind of opening yourself up a little bit more to realizing that it's not your grandmother's gray anymore. So there's no reason not to love it. It's just another shade in the rainbow of things, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Just lots of informative information. We address health issues for those of us who are getting a little bit in the older side. At the same time, it's just a big mixture of things we thought women who are going silver want to know about. Taking care of your hair, taking care of your body, wellness. The fall issue is kind of more focused on wellness this go around, whereas the summer issue is really focused on color.
Okay.
And we're always looking for ideas. If there's something that the silver community is telling us they really want us to delve into, we're going to do that going forward in new and upcoming issues. So
right,
but
okay.
It's chock full of goodies. It's chock full of inspiration and motivation. There's a couple pages on there because I'm a big journaler. So there's a couple pages in there that kind of is a place to encourage you to maybe take a picture of yourself and tape it in there where you're at now, because then like I saved lots of magazines. You go back later and see where you were, because I think some women forget to take those pictures. I know it doesn't look like that with Instagram, but there are some of us who don't take as many pictures of ourselves as you think, and then you go back and you're like, wow, like I'm here now. I've actually made it. So
yeah, no, that's true. You forget that there are people that are not on Instagram that are going through this process as well. Because what I noticed, and I knew nothing about the Silver Sister community. I went public with my Instagram page last year simply to kind of connect with other women that were of my generation that were feeling kind of left out by the beauty and fashion industry, and just feeling like just that they weren't important, to those industries. And that's why I went public with my page, and I just sort of stumbled across the Silver Sister community. And boy, I really wish that I had them when I was going through my 2-year transition, because I felt really lonely. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who felt like that. The only support I had were my 2 daughters who really encouraged me to go for it initially, and then just were there for the whole journey. Anytime I kind of thought about reaching for that dye bottle, they were just like, no, mum, don't do it. It's so beautiful. And I loved the color. I just was hung up on the colors association with being old. And that was it for me. I knew it was a beautiful color. I admired other women who had gone grey. There was a woman in my gym, I remember, who was doing it, and I was going through the process. And I remember watching her and thinking how amazing it looked, and her transition. She was very open about it. But I just, yeah, I couldn't let go of that whole link with being left on the shelf, I suppose, and being viewed as being old and unimportant. So that was hard for me. So to see that there's this supportive community, and they're so supportive. It's unbelievable how, you know, the cheerleading that goes on is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's not another community like this. I mean, I've been doing things with women for years, but this community just really rallies around each other. I mean, I think like you were saying, I can remember at 26, I found my first grays, and my stepfather at the time was standing above me and made a comment that, oh, you better cover your grays before you look older than your mom. Well, at 26, you want to hear somebody tell you you're going to look older than your mother, right? So like, I spent the next 20 years coloring because of that fear of like, oh my God, my silvers are coming, my grays are coming in.
Absolutely a fear.
Yeah, so it was really hard. But when I decided to go for it, it was after about a year and a half of watching and finding the silver community and watching the women going, I might be able to do that. I might be able to do that. And being just really tired. And like yourself, my daughter was probably my number one supporter. My husband says he was, because he was always going, just do it, just do it. But my daughter was getting married in 9 months, and I said to her, so I decided to let my hair go silver, but I can wait till after your wedding if you'd like. And she was like, do it. Women my age are paying for it. Just do it. Oh. So it was great having that added incentive of my daughter being okay for her wedding photos that her mom might, be totally silver.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Of course, I learned really quickly, though, that going silver is not as quick if you're doing it naturally as we think it's going to be. I somehow thought in 9 months I'd be total silver.
I know, right? When you're dyeing it, the roots come through so quickly. You're like, this is a breeze. Right. It's just, they like literally within 5 days, I would notice that the roots were coming through. Right. And yet it took me 2 years to fully, to get it to a length where I felt I could cut it all off. 2 years. Right. I was like, never imagined it was going to take that long. I was going to say, tell me about
our best friend.
What's that?
I was like, patience becomes our best friend on this journey.
Yeah. Patience and hats and scarves.
Yes.
That's what I did. I covered mine up. I was going to ask you about your silver journey. That was my next question, but you kind of touched on that already. Was there anything to add to that?
Just for me, you said it was a struggle to go that way. Well, it was a struggle in one manner. I knew at 18 or 19 that I was going to be silver at some point because it's in my genes. My grandmother had beautiful white hair, but I worked in a nursing home where there was a little old 90-year-old lady who had the longest, most beautiful silver hair, and she would brush every day, like 100 strokes at a time. And I remember at that time going, oh, that's going to be me someday. When I'm in a nursing home like that, that's going to be me. I'm going to have that long silver hair doing that stuff. So I think I always knew at some point. I just didn't expect to be embracing it in my 50s. I guess, back then I thought, oh, that's, 90s. But,
Yeah. Well, I always said, because I could see, I always liked the color, as I say. And when I was in my 30s, my early 30s was when I started dyeing it. And when I got to about 38, I was 39. I remember saying, when I'm 45, that was the cutoff point. That's when I was going to stop dyeing it. And then 45 came. And my life had changed by then. I wasn't with my children's dad anymore. I was single, and I was in the workplace, working in a glamorous environment. And as I said before, those two factors really, really made it difficult to come to that decision. So at 45, it was just was never going to happen. I was just like, there's no way. And I was dyeing it every 2 weeks, and I would have like one good week where the roots weren't showing, just about peeking through by the end of the first week. And then the second week I was wearing a hat, and I did that for, a good 10 years of the 20 years of dyeing it, where I would have 1 week where I could wear my hair out, and then a week where I'd cover it up, and then I'd dye it again. And it was just this pattern. And I was doing it myself towards the end. So I was putting this brown, stinky sludge on my hair, because it's got that ammonia smell. My kids were just like, Mom, this is just, they'd had enough before I'd had enough. So if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have done it, to be honest with you. I did have an operation, which kind of like the lockdown, the sisters that did it during lockdown. So I had an operation where I had about 6 weeks to recover at home, and I thought, I was curious, and I thought I'm not going to be going to work, so I'll have a look and see what it looks like. And then that was it. I just went for it after that. So it was, yeah, illness, like you were saying before, and circumstances that really were the truth. I don't think I would. The girls nagging me maybe would have got on my nerves after another year or so. But really, I think that point of the 6 weeks where I was recovering was the turning point, really. And I'm so, you know, as I say, I'm so glad I did it. And I needn't have worried, because, I mean, it was difficult for those 2 years, but once it was fully grown, and, you know, just the response from people was so unexpected. I did have a kind of unveiling of it, you know, when I got to a point where it was healthy and it looked nice, and I kind of went to an event, and people hadn't seen it before. I saw loads of people that I hadn't seen before, and the response was positive. And so I was like, I made, you know, all of this, and I've come through it, and it honestly, it really, so much has happened to me. I don't know if it's the same for you at the end of this journey. And I call it my silver magic. It's like, I always say this to people, even just people on the street, strangers being really kind on a daily basis and saying lovely stuff to you makes for a good day. You know, it makes for good energy in your space, and just positivity. And it's even at that level, it's magical. So,
you know, I just tell everybody that I feel like sometimes, like, you just use the word the end of your journey. And what I always think is kind of funny is that I don't think when we go in this in the beginning, we think, okay, there's going to be a start, a fin, and an ending, right? Yeah. But I really think, like, I look at where I'm at right now, and I know in 5 years, I'm not going to be here. I might be a whole lot whiter. I might be more peppery, because I think it's kind of, once you get into this, it's kind of an ongoing journey, and we change in so many ways. Like, it started off as being just a concept about, this is about my hair color. That's all it really was, in the sense was, I'm going to let my hair go. It's just hair. I can color if I need to. But then in this 3 years, so much, it's made me evaluate so many different things of my fears. I used to think of what people would say about something. Now is gone, because, like you said, what I was worried about wasn't even there. Like, people are, like, you know, I think as women, we're so concerned that we're not allowed to do that because it's going to make us look old, or like Richard Gere looks handsome, but women look old. But then all of a sudden, when we get there and we're doing it, what we thought was going to be what we were told is not what we're hearing when we're actually doing it.
The case.
And it's so awakening. Many women, I think, would do it more often if they weren't so worried about, oh, I can't do it, or I can't look like you. Well, you're not going to look like it. I'm not going to look like you. You're not going to look like me. But you're going to be beautiful when you're embracing yourself. So
absolutely, you exude something else. And that's the other thing I was going to say, is that it's almost like it says more than the color of your hair. It says something about who you are, and that some people may, like, I've had people say, you know, oh, it's really brave of you to do that, because I did it at a time, you know, when people weren't really doing it, just like yourself. There's a lot of people doing it now, and it's fantastic, because I always wanted it to just be normalized and to just be another color. I have to say, though, I say that, but it is actually the one color that because it changes and everybody's is unique, so it is a little bit more special, if I'm honest, than every other natural color, I think, because it's just, everybody's is so, you know, you get curl patterns, you get gray patterns and silver patterns, and it's all very unique to you and your genes and whatever else. You know, it's like some people have just got a little streak at the front, which looks absolutely beautiful. Others have got complete white, and that's beautiful in its own right. And so even though it is just another color, it does have, there is a spectrum, I think, and that's what makes it a little bit more special.
Right. And I think that's what people need to really grasp, so that they don't get caught up in that, well, I can't look like you. Well, yeah, you're not going to. I mean, that's a key thing for everybody to know. When you're entering silver, it's about you and your silver, not everybody else's silver.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the thing. People, you know, comparing is never a healthy thing, is it? Yeah, whatever that might be. So what's your vision for the magazine? How do you see things in a couple of years' time, say?
Yeah, you know, I really hope that we are really changing the tide of acceptance in the silver community, right? And that as we reach out more and get the magazine more out, and people realize, oh, it's not just an article, it's a full magazine devoted to this. So this is really okay to do, right? That's my goal. And then maybe, you know, I would love it if we could get to a point where we have some events going around the world in a sense that are bringing women or couples together that are experiencing this together, because it's such a bonding thing. Like we've said, the women in this community are so uplifting of each other.
Yeah.
You know, I can't think of a single person that I've ever heard anything really negative coming from another sister, right? I mean, there's some of the naysayers out there that are still on the old bandwagons of what gray means. But for the most part, we're in just such an opening area that I really see the magazine being like at the forefront. So like if you go back and you look at like, you know, was like Vogue was like the big fashion magazine. I would like to believe that at some point people will refer to Tangled Silver as the magazine that helped really bring this to light.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think in terms of sort of the, you know, the sort of commercial side of it, you're early, but I think we're getting to a point where, I mean, all the big brands are bringing out products specifically for silver and grey hair, aren't they? I think you're on the cusp of change in that department. I think you'll definitely, hopefully, you'll be the go-to for that. You know,
that's what my hope is. I mean, just as a way to also show, you know, there's nothing worse than having I love every age at silver, right? The young silver, the old silvers, but there's nothing worse than when you're at our age in a sense, right? And they're trying to sell you a wrinkle cream and it's got some 20-year-old person doing it, because it makes it so not believable. Because at 20, I didn't have any wrinkles either. So
absolutely.
Nice to see them, you know, yes, I hope that we will represent it in all formats. That they will just see that the silver community is not going anywhere, and you might as well embrace us and let us represent ourselves as well.
Absolutely. I think you just touched on a really good point, something I wanted to raise earlier actually about, you know, young people going grey as well, and how, I mean, I think it looks absolutely stunning when you see a young person. It looks stunning on anybody, but when you see a young person, because it's less common. So when you see it, it really stands out, and it just looks so beautiful. I follow a couple of young women that have grey hair and are embracing it. And for me, that is so lovely to see. That touches my heart a little, you know, in a way that perhaps other stories don't, because I was, you know, I was relatively young. I was 30 when I started going grey, and it was just a no-no. I didn't even have that much, and I was dyeing it immediately, you know, for fear. So when you see these girls just looking absolutely stunning and owning it, and it says so much.
Well, we're trying to spotlight a couple of younger gals as well. So when the magazine goes out, when it comes out, it's not just all women that are older women with silver hair. We also try to make sure that we're including some of the younger women, because I feel like we all glean from each other. I mean, if I had been able to accept myself at 26 and my silvers then, I could have saved a whole lot of money and done a lot more traveling than I did with all the money I spent on my hair trying to keep it blonde, right? So I think these young women are so much braver, and I think that they're also helping that we won't have generations where gray is looked at so negatively like we did for so long. I mean, I can remember the commercials in the 80s, you know, color that gray right out of your, wash that gray right out of your hair stuff. And it was like, what a message to send to us as women. But, you know, they're now not listening to it, and we're all not listening to it. So hopefully at some point that they'll realize that there's better ways to, you know, I don't discourage coloring of any sort. If you love to do that and you think it's fun, like, oh, great. But if not, we shouldn't feel like we have to.
It's very different to dyeing it for fear of looking old. Absolutely. I agree with you. I've said that before on a post that, you know, if you're dyeing it for you know, that's your preference, you know, you're experimenting with lovely colors, but if you're dyeing it because you're afraid of looking old, that's completely different. And really, you know, I've been there, so I know that's not a nice way to live your life when it's priority that, you know, I mean, that you cover those grays, you know, that's a big focus of your daily life. It really literally was, you know, like a focus for me, and to let that go has just been so liberating, you know, like you know, we throw that word around a lot, liberating, and freeing and all of that, but it so is. It's very cliche, but it's the truth of it. So dyeing it because you love a different, you know, another color, or, you know, that's completely different, and that's a really good point to make. So where can we find Tangled Silver? Where can people find your magazine?
So right now you can find it on tangledsilver.com. We offer digital and print subscriptions through online right now. We are currently working and marketing to get ourselves into some of the local like Whole Foods. We're trying to hopefully get in with them at some point, maybe Sprouts, because the magazine is very natural. So it's kind of I think that's a natural fit that we need to be on their shelves for sure.
Yeah.
And we're working on it. Like I said, we have some big goals for things, and we did get our Library of Congress in the United States, our ISSN number, so that makes us really a legitimate
Oh,
magazine in
excellent.
the eyes
Yeah.
of the USA. So we're pretty excited to see where we can go next to actually get out there more. But currently right now, you do have to reach out to the magazine, but then you get a more of a personal touch right now because we are small right now. So you're actually getting little notes from me when you join us, and we're sending things out. But so it comes out
Okay.
quarterly, four times a year. We are talking about maybe doing a couple additional magazines, like special, like a spring special, maybe a winter special in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a
Fantastic.
lot to cover. There's so much to cover with the silver world. So
I was just going to say, so how many issues are there per year? Is it seasonal, isn't it?
it's
Is it
seasonal. Yeah, it's quarterly. So we come out in
quarterly?
January, March, April, then again in June or July, and then we're coming out now in October. So kind of winter, spring, summer, fall, but a little kind of in the middle of each quarter. Um,
Okay.
just based on when I started putting things together. So
Fantastic. Well, it's been really an absolute pleasure to kind of to get